I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a wonderful book. It is called The Forgotten Chef, Winning the Culinary Battle. It's written by a terrific chef and author, Phil May. It is a guide to discovering or rediscovering your passion and confidence in the kitchen. There's an audio version available as well. It's narrated by Brad Derry, and this inspiring audiobook offers tips, techniques, and a fresh perspective for anyone from home cooks to aspiring chefs. With decades of culinary experience, Phil shares stories, wisdom, and practical advice to help you unlock your full potential in the culinary world. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Phil, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thanks for having me, Logan.
Love the title, The Forgotten Chef. Why did you name it that?
Yeah, great question. I'm super passionate about cooking and been in the food industry, or at least my journey has been over 30 years. And the premise of the book is that really trying to reach the next generation of chefs. And I feel kind of they've been left behind on their cooking journey due to various reasons. And we can kind of go into that if you want a little bit. But yeah, just trying to reach the next generation and inspire them to get to the next level.
Sounds great. Let's talk about your journey. I started working in a kitchen when I was really young. I presume you did too. Tell us a little bit about your start.
Yeah, so my story is a little different. I'm actually not culinary trained, although I do come from a cooking family. My mom was a home economics major, and my dad is a pharmacist. And together, they've made some great meals over the years. And so when I was serving in the Navy, I was stationed out in Norfolk, Virginia, and I lived in Virginia Beach. And it's about that time when I realized how good the food I had at home, and then I had to cook for myself for the very first time. So that's kind of what started the journey.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think some of the best chefs nowadays aren't culinary trained. I think they did get inspired by their moms or dads, their families, or taking recipes that they've known for generations that are just delicious. I mean, look at the success of the chef, I don't know her name, who runs the Lost Kitchen up in Maine. She also just considers herself a cook, not a chef, because she had no culinary training. So you don't necessarily have to go to culinary school, right?
That's correct. And that's really the premise of the book, Logan, is really to let people know that cooking doesn't have to be that difficult, and just learning the fundamentals, having some knowledge of kind of the cooking game, and basically, trial and error.
Yeah.
Um, you get good at things, just, making mistakes, and you go, well, I want to do that again, but, let's try it again. So that's really the goal, is kind of to be a mentor and a guide for that next generation and really try to help them kind of go after their dreams and goals.
Tell us a little bit about, so you had no formal training, but then you started working in kitchens. Tell us a little bit about how that worked for you and what type of kitchens they were and what kind of dishes you enjoyed creating.
Yeah, so I retired out of the financial service industry as a financial advisor, and I just retired a couple years ago. And I started in a restaurant in just right out of high school. I think that's probably where things kind of started off. But I've had quite a bit of catering experience. That's kind of been the extent of my experience cooking for large groups, church groups. A lot of I assisted some caterers in cooking, the meat for the weddings and that sort of thing. So that's kind of been the bulk of my experience. And then also just as a home chef, just entertaining guests has been the bulk of my experience.
Sounds great. Let's give the folks at home an overview of the book. What will they find when they crack the covers or listen on the audio version?
Sure. It basically starts out with kind of my culinary journey, and I kind of the metaphor is you're kind of climbing to get to the top of a mountain, you kind of need a mountain. You need a guide basically, and so it starts out with that's kind of my metaphor for their culinary journey, and it starts out with my story. Just kind of goes into where it all started in Virginia Beach, and then takes you through 30 years, and then we kind of break down the the potential or the types of cooks in four different quadrants. And if you don't mind, I can kind of read them off to you. Kind of
Sure.
quadrant one would be like a no passion, no skill type of person. Basically, I kind of categorize them as kind of serial fast food purchase Uber Eats type person. The second is kind of a no passion, high skill. And that's basically someone that's kind of retired out of the industry, or maybe it's grandma or mom that just doesn't really cook anymore. For example, in my book, I talk about my mother-in-law, Rosa. She's Portuguese descent, and she's a great cook, but she just doesn't cook anymore.
Right.
And the uh, the third quadrant would be like your high passion, high skill type of chef, like your Guy Fieri's of the world, your Alton Browns, your Iron Chef type personalities. And the fourth quadrant is the one I kind of zeroed in on my book, which is the high passion, no skill chef. And this is somebody that basically has a passion for the industry, has a passion for culinary, but just doesn't have the skill, right? And so that's what the book really goes into is, how do you attack getting some of these skills? We talk a lot about the fundamentals of cooking, etc.
Yeah, there are some fundamentals you have to learn if you're going to work effectively in a kitchen, such as, the temperature of different dishes, what dishes to cook them at, how not to burn the butter, what oils to cook in, what adds flavor, what takes away flavor, what ingredients to add first. That can make a big difference when you're making a dish, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just for example, like to your point, just salting food, right? A lot of folks just think that, it calls for a tablespoon of salt, so they dump a tablespoon in there, and you may or may not get it right. So kind of one of the things I teach in my book is to basically salt as you go, right? Because, the chefs that really, when you eat in a nice restaurant, what they've done is they've really mastered the art of just the max amount of salt that is needed to get the dish where it needs to be, and nothing more, right? So these chefs are super good at just paying attention to the small things, and that's kind of what I teach in the book is pay attention to these small type of principles.
Absolutely. Salting food really is an art. Just enough salt brings out the flavor and it's perfect. Too much salt can make it inedible. And sometimes it's a subtle difference. And you see some places, some hack chefs taking the salt shaker and going like this over the food, holding it upside down and just pouring salt on the food. You get it and it's just awful. Maybe the first bite tastes okay and you're like, this is mighty salty.
Absolutely.
What are some of your favorite dishes to make? What do you like to cook?
I like Italian pasta sauces. I love that. Kind of got into making my own doughs, a few years ago. Making my own pizza doughs. One thing I really like, Logan, is risotto.
Hmm.
And so, a few years ago, I just basically started making different types of risottos, and just learning the whole technique behind that. And so stuff like that's been I tend to pick something that I really am passionate about, and then I just keep doing it over and over and practice, and then until you get it down.
Do you make your sauce from scratch when you're making marinara sauce or tomato sauce?
Yeah, yep, yeah, I do.
Tell us
Yeah, anytime.
a little bit about the secrets of making a great pasta sauce.
Sure. I always start with olive oil, some
Mhm.
nice olive oil, and a nice saute pan, and start with onion. Usually, I'll usually get some garlic, some crushed garlic in there, And then once we kind of get the onions kind of translucent, then we're going to add our tomatoes. I really like heirloom tomatoes, Logan. That's something I've experimented with over the years. Beefsteak tomatoes are great. Um, Romas can be a little, maybe not best for pasta sauce, but I like your beefsteaks and your heirlooms. And then once I get that mixture going, I'll usually add some of my herbs, whatever's fresh in the garden. I love basil, I love sage. I'll go with some thyme, a little oregano works really well. Oregano is kind of a pretty bitter herb, so you got to be careful not to add too much. And of course, I always add a little wine with that. And I just kind of let that cook and simmer for, hour or two. One of the things I've done is I've used vodka of all things to as a reduction in my tomato sauce, and that just works magically. So you can either do like a nice Merlot or Cabernet or something like that, but also you can use vodka, and you reduce that over time, and it makes a wonderful pasta sauce.
So for now on, I'll have a Kettle One martini in my hand when I'm making the pasta sauce and spill a little bit
That's
of my
right.
martini into the pot.
That's right.
Okay,
You always
good,
have
good.
to taste, you have to taste the, whatever you're pouring into the pasta sauce first, right?
Exactly, exactly. Now, when you're adding your tomatoes, are they chopped? Are they crushed? Tell us about that part of it.
Yeah,
Are they peeled?
sure. Yeah, I just usually, quarter them. It can go pretty kind of a bigger chop. It doesn't have to be minced or crushed by any means. I think it's better when you just kind of start out bigger, and they'll render down over time. And just, the skin on the tomato will kind of, leave you with a wonderful texture.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. You're making me hungry, that's for sure, because pasta sauce and
Yeah.
pasta are my favorite things, without a doubt.
Oh, wonderful.
Homemade pasta really is worth the effort because the difference between, not to pick on them, but ronzoni and something you're whipping up in your kitchen are night and day. They don't even really taste like the same thing. So, what's the secret to making a good homemade pasta?
Homemade pasta, I kind of in the book, I talk about let's just even boiling water, right? That's kind of an art. It sounds kind of silly, but a good rolling boil with the pasta is helpful. I have made my own pasta. It's real easy to do. It's not that hard. You just kind of have to have a little pasta machine to make your noodles and whatnot. But the idea is really to add salt to the water, put it into a kind of a low rolling boil, so to speak, and then you add your pasta, and then making sure before you pull it out that it's cooked enough, because I think a lot of folks, they just throw pasta in and they'll say like, well, boil it for 10 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever. But cooking is about kind of tasting as you go. And so making sure you don't pull it out before it's done, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the idea. They call it al dente, firm to the tooth, and from Italy. And that's kind of what I do, is pull it out before, try a few pieces of pasta, make sure it's perfect. And then what I always do, a little trick that the chefs do in the restaurants, is all that starch from the pasta when you're boiling it, basically in that water, I'll take probably a quarter cup of that water and I will add that to the pasta sauce. And so what that does is two things. One, it gives you a lot of richness into the sauce. And number two, it kind of rehydrates the sauce and it doesn't dry it out. So when you're stirring in your pasta, you've seen a lot of pasta dishes where everything just gets dried out, right? You add your sauce and all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, it's real pasty. Well, this will leave your sauce nice and just perfect.
Well, that's a great hack. I never heard of that before, so we appreciate that tip for sure. Now, I hate cooking on electric stovetops. I need a flame. Do you have the same bias? Because I have trouble controlling the heat exactly as I want it unless I can see how tall the flame is.
100%, 100%. I did cook on electric for a number of years at our old house. When we moved here to Idaho, have my own stove here, and yeah, gas stoves are amazing because, to your point, you can really dial in the exact temperature that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's impossible, in my opinion, to gauge on a on an electric stove. You put it up to max, you assume that's high flame heat, and it doesn't seem to match the intensity. That's for sure. Particularly when doing things like getting that water to a rolling boil and other dishes that you want to really, cook at a high temperature. In the book, you talk about the dirty 30. Tell us about that. You got everybody intrigued here.
Yeah, sure. The Dirty 30, I kind of call like this is kind of our primer for young chefs that's starting out. Like, what are some tools in the kitchen that you really need to have? And it's not all inclusive, Logan. There's some things that that you can buy that aren't in the book. But the Dirty 30 was really tailored for someone that says, "Hey, I'm just building out my kitchen. What do I really need? Right? Do I need to spend a couple $1,000 or is there a better plan?" So this kind of goes over some of the things in the kitchen that I really like and are very helpful for the young chef.
What's a favorite tool in the kitchen that somebody might not think about buying, but is a great tool to have once you own it?
Okay, I'd say number one is a pastry scraper.
Mm.
They basically they're kind of like a rectangular type object, and basically you can scrape um, your cutting board with them, and super helpful. So if you're dicing something and you have throwaway stuff, you can pick it all up with your scraper. Some people call them like a bench scraper. You'll see chefs like when they're working in the kitchen, they'll scoop these things up either with their knife, which can kind of be dangerous, honestly. For a trained professional, it's fine, but the bench scrapers or these pastry scrapers are perfect. You dice your onion, your carrots, your celery, whatever. You can scoop it all up, throw it in the pan at the same time. You don't have to worry about cutting yourself.
Sounds great. That's a great hack. Again, never thought of that. And I don't use the pastry scraper much. I always like to have tongs in the kitchen. I feel like I'm naked
Yes.
if I don't have tongs. And but so that's my tool of choice, particularly
I,
because I don't
I
want to burn myself.
I love that idea. That's probably my second go-to. Probably use that more than the pastry scraper, but tongs are a unique tool. They come in different sizes, smaller ones, bigger ones. Some have kind of a, stainless steel end to them. Some of them have, more of a, an end to them that basically is not going to burn, that sort of thing. So yeah, those can be used like super efficiently in so many different ways. And that is part of my Dirty 30 for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's my favorite. Um, I was lucky. I started out when I was about 12 years old working in a country club kitchen. I was very tall, so I lied about my age. I told them I was 16, but it really taught me all the basics. And then from there, I graduated at 14 to working in a deli and I did short order cooking, which was, and having these skills have sustained me throughout life. To know how to cook is such a great skill to have, particularly for men. Not to sound sexist, but a lot of men don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen with their mom, although they should, to learn how to cook. So I think your book really does fill a great void for people who aspire to be great home chefs and don't really know how to start.
That's right. And
Tell
that's
us
really
about,
the premise.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's the premise of the book is not leaving the generation behind and just kind of putting them on their food journey. Getting them to say, I'd like to know more. I don't really have a guide or a mentor, so I kind of wanted to be that person. And Logan, there's a few years where you go, I got a book inside of me, when it comes to something I'm passionate about, and it just took me about a year or so to write this book. Kind of took a pound of flesh out of me, but super difficult for me to write. It was just a passion project, but yeah, it was hopefully for those who do use some of the or read the book and use some of the the ideas. Hopefully that'll help them to get better at what they want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the cover art on your book. The chef you have there, he's kind of like a new age Chef Boyardee. Is he an original
Yeah.
creation or something? What's his background?
Yeah, he's they when the publishing company I use, they put a couple ideas together. One was a skillet, and one was this guy. And I don't know where they came up with this character, but as soon as I saw him, I go, yeah, I like this guy, you know.
Exactly.
And yeah,
If
so
it,
he's definitely eye catching for sure.
Without a doubt, if he was a little statue in front of a restaurant holding a tray of something, I would definitely go into that restaurant. So you picked the right cover for your book. Let's talk a little bit
Thank
about
you.
the celebrity chef culture, what impact has had on cooking, and do you feel it's good, bad, indifferent? Tell us a little bit about that. You mentioned Guy Fieri. There's so many others that I can't even remember their names right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the chapters I titled "The Celebrity Chef Conundrum" was basically kind of tackle that whole topic. And you know, I was pretty rough on the celebrity chefs, and the editors basically said that's a little harsh, and so you need to probably back off a little bit. But generally speaking, I kind of broke them down into two categories, Logan. Some are entertainers, right? They are there to entertain us, which is wonderful. The other are there to teach you how to cook, you know. And so, you know, there's kind of two sides of one coin, so to speak. And I think generally speaking, I think the celebrity chefs have done a great job of introducing the food world, the culinary world. I think that's been advantageous, you know, for everybody. The downside is that when you're just learning how to cook, it can be a little disparaging, right? Because you just go like, I can't cook like a celebrity chef. You know, I'm not an Iron Chef. There's no way that I can, you know, crank out some of these things they see on TV. So that's kind of the downside, you know. But
Yeah.
there are some good things I think they've done, but I think those are kind of two thoughts for you.
Exactly. I think I could beat Bobby Flay. I think, I'll put my meatloaf against his any day. My secret ingredient in my meatloaf is what my mom used to put in it was Special K was her
Really,
ingredients of choice. Yeah. It makes it taste great. And
that's awesome.
a lot of ketchup as well. That's the home
There
style.
you go.
Yeah. Do you have any like hacks from growing up that my mom used to use a lot of Crisco growing up too. We don't use Crisco anymore. That is a heart attack
Now,
on a plate. But anything that you like your
yeah.
mom or family influence that was a great idea that mom had and borrowed from her a little bit or any other relative?
Yeah, that's a great question. My mom is a great cook. Gosh, she's got so many things she's taught me. I think a lot of her sauces, kind of how she's attacked sauces.
Yeah.
She's really good at sauces. My dad, a lot of his hacks were from the barbecue. So he would marinate meats. He'd use dry rubs. We'd smoke things, or we'd barbecue things. I think a lot of the things they taught me are like marinades, dry rubs, sauces. I'm trying to think on the top of my head with respect to mom. But as this interview goes on, I'll probably think of something real
Absolutely. Well, you
pertinent
said
for you.
her sauces, and I'm sure her sauces were terrific. And the sauce you described sound great. Let's talk about knife handling skills. That's something I was never great at. You see some people are like pop, 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 so fast. I mean, I can slice it without taking off a finger, but I'm not curling my hands like this and chopping it really fast. Do you have any advice for somebody who'd like to get better with a knife?
I do. I think either one, find a mentor somewhere, somebody that really knows knife skills. That's one of the chapters in my book. I basically admitted I kind of dropped the ball over the years. I've had opportunities to go to some knife handling skill type classes at the Culinary Institute out of San Jose or Campbell, California. And I kind of dropped the ball on that, Logan, but I think that would probably be my number one thing to really start out with is understanding what type of knife you need for every type of, you know, project or anything you're cooking. You need to be able to identify the right type of knife, number one, and number two, how to handle the knife. Because obviously, like to your point, you don't want to hurt yourself, which is super easy. And you see these chefs just chopping up things like just it's like second nature to them, you
Right,
know? And so
right.
I think that's a super big skill to learn.
Yeah. The deli I worked in was also a butcher shop, and the guys were great who taught us how to handle the knives and all that stuff. Like I said, I never got great with it, but one lesson I remember them telling me was let the knife do the work. Don't force it. When you're forcing it
Right.
on that bagel or something that's got a hard exterior, that's
That's
when you're going to slip and cut your hand. So that was a good bit of advice from my youth. Let's talk about kitchen safety. Cross-contamination can be a really concern. I know I handle chicken like it's toxic waste. I'm really
yes,
afraid of getting salmonella. Tell us
for
some of
sure.
your hacks and hints and tips about handling food that needs to be kept away from other foods.
Yeah, I would say to your point, that's like a huge, huge aspect in cooking that you really don't think about too much. So I would recommend keeping two different cutting boards, right? One for, raw ingredients like your chickens and your beef and anything that's raw, right? Don't use that for cutting fresh. So I have like my cutting board is I have one cutting board for vegetables, onion, anything that's not gonna, kill you or hurt you, get
Mm.
get you sick. And
Yep.
then the other one is just basically for raw ingredients. And so one is the raw ingredient one you want to use is something you can put in the dishwasher, right? Something you can sanitize real well when you're done.
Cutting boards, do you like plastic, wood, glass? Which do you prefer?
Wood is best for knives. Plastic, you've probably seen there's a lot of Instagram things and a lot of research going into a lot of these plastic cutting boards where it's getting into your food,
You
right?
would
So
have to when you're
knife is
chopping
coming.
up on a plastic board, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say for plastic, I would say to stick more with wood. There's some other alternatives you can look at. The problem with wood cutting boards is you really can't put them in the dishwasher. So you
Right.
just got to make sure you have some type of sanitation solution to really kind of, get your boards clean. Make sure your knives are clean too. You can easily be chopping to your point like chicken, and then all of a sudden, you're having to dice up, some carrots or this or that, but basically you're not, on the stovetop or anything, and now you've just cross-contaminated your dish.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Be careful of that. Salmonella is no fun. Sous vide. I've got
No,
a friend who's a sous vide fanatic. Every time I go to his house, he's sous vide something else. Talk to us a little bit about sous vide and the benefits of it and why it's catching on with such great popularity.
sure. Well, sous vide is basically, to your point, is basically taking a plastic bag, putting your food in it, and immersing that in some water, like basically a big water bath. And you can dial it into whatever temperature you want, so based on whatever food you're looking at. So, for instance, if it's let's say you're doing some filet mignon and you dial bath water of about 135, you basically can't mess it up, right? Because nothing is going to go past 135 degrees. So it's pretty idiot proof when it comes to, not messing things up. So a lot of the restaurants in the past, the five-star and the Michelin rated, that's what they use. They had these sous vide contraptions, if you will, and they would basically sous vide everything. So they pull that out and they would usually flip it on the grill for a few minutes, get some nice, some char on the meat and, put it on the plate. So that's kind of a huge up and coming thing right now, Logan.
Yeah, and that's the key. The sous vide is great. It cooks it thoroughly. It retains the juices. It retains the flavor. But you got to throw it in a skillet or on a grill to give it that char, to give it that real great flavor, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is a key. So it's a two-part process with sous vide. Now, if you did like salmon or chicken or something like that, it's you don't necessarily have to do that. But like with beef for sure, I think, like a nice fillet would be perfect in a sous vide. Finish it with the on a grill or something that's going to give it a nice char. They call that in the culinary industry the Maillard reaction.
Great. Well,
Fancy
you have,
word for
that's awesome.
caramelization of your proteins and your sugars.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you've succeeded in making me unbelievably hungry. I've got a nice grass-fed strip steak that I'm waiting to cook tonight. So
Good
that'll
for
be a
you.
few hours from now, but I will keep in mind it won't be sous vide, but it will be grilled. The name of the book is The Forgotten Chef: Winning the Culinary Battle. It's written by Phil May. It is a guide to discovering passion and confidence in the kitchen. There's an audio version, also very, very entertaining, very, very inspiring. It offers tips, techniques, and a fresh perspective for anyone from home cooks to aspiring chefs. As you can see, what can you talk about for a half an hour? There's a lot to unpack in this book. We talked 30 minutes, no problem. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of tips. There's a lot of secrets. There's a lot to learn. Pick up this book. You won't regret it. Make a great gift for the holiday and Christmas season, no doubt, as well. Phil, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan. I really appreciate your time and hope you enjoy your steak tonight.
I will, absolutely. Like I said, I've worked up an appetite. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time. This time, until next time on Spotlight.